Rob, if you would like to introduce Cheryl and.
Yes, okay. We so somehow I don't remember exactly how Cheryl how I first received your name. I think it was through one of the people on this group. Uh Actually, I think it was someone from my faith community at Father Dyer, who had actually been in contact with somebody from Lord of the Mountains, which now Lord, I understand Lord of the Mountains and the Synagogue of the Summit are both members of the CFCU. Okay, let me see if I got this right. The
High Country Unitarian, I was looking, has also been associated with.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
they unfortunately have disbanded here
Oh,
in
okay.
Summit County.
Got
That's
it.
been recent.
That's right.
It's
Okay.
health issues and
That's right.
but you're right. They may join up again, and they are very much in that. And Lord of the Mountains has been one of the starters of that with Diane Llewellyn. For any of you that. And
So I
now,
think starting, yes. Yeah. Anyway, starting back, I think it was August or September, we had I think Julie and I had a Zoom meeting with Cheryl, who represents Colorado Faith Communities United Against Gun Violence. Did I get that correct, Cheryl?
Close to end gun violence.
And gun violence. And
Pretty
specifically, yes, it is. And based on that, there's an associated group called Guns to Gardens, which had an event in October that I attended. So, and I found it very worthwhile. It's something that, and Cheryl can explain it better than I can. But anyway, based on my attending that event, I thought there are enough things here that hopefully other faith communities or the Interfaith Council as a whole hopefully would get more involved in. I joined the separate Guns to Gardens group, and somehow they partner with your group, if I understand that right, Cheryl. Can you explain that? Maybe talk about the guns. I'd suggest talk about the Guns to Gardens program first, and then maybe you could talk more about, in general, some of the other things that your organization does, and then
well, would you mind? I sort of have a brief PowerPoint presentation, and I was going to just sort of present a little bit of background on CFCU and then shift into Guns to Gardens primarily. And then I figure it'll just take a few minutes to kind of go through that information. And then you can ask questions. Let me know if, just sort of, we can hone in through your questions on what you all specifically are interested in. Does that sound all right?
Yeah, sounds fine to me.
Okay. So Kathy, I think, were you gonna allow me to share my screen?
So just hit the share and then you'll I'll get a notification.
Okay, now I'm not tech savvy enough to be able to see my slides and show them to you and then also see you. So Kathy or someone, if you see anyone who has a hand raised or anything like that, maybe you can track that. But like I said, I want to use a good chunk of the time for questions and answers. First, let me just, before I go to the slides, let me introduce myself. I am Cheryl Fleetwood. So I am a lifelong Presbyterian. I attend Central Presbyterian down here in Denver, just north of the Capitol building. I have a background in community organizing. I'm a social worker. I am from Springfield, Missouri originally, married a Coloradan, came to Colorado. I love it. We've raised 3 kids here. Our youngest is in her last semester of college. And so we kind of have a new lease on life. But I have always been an active volunteer and about things that I'm passionate about. And so about 4 years ago, right before the pandemic, I had been, I actually was working with a youth civic engagement organization. And when you work with young people, you can't avoid the topic of gun violence. It is unfortunately prevalent. They're growing up in a different time than we did. And so, you know, my interest certainly and passion for gun violence prevention was piqued. Then I learned about CFCU. It's a mouthful. And someday I'd love to have a succinct little name that's easy to remember, but it's Colorado Faith Communities United is the CFCU, and then to end gun violence. So so I started volunteering right before the pandemic. And about the same time, the Presbyterian Peace Fellowship, which is a national, you know, part of the PCUSA, started organizing this Guns to Gardens movement. And so I've been involved in both, and they've sort of evolved together. Now we're on the other side of the pandemic, and I want to just sort of share with you all a little bit more about CFCU, just kind of introduce you to that. But then I think the main interest, and I think something that's really an exciting way for faith communities to engage in gun violence prevention, is through the Guns to Gardens movement. So I am going to leave it at that. I'm going to share my screen here.
Well, I was going to say, in hindsight, Cheryl, should we introduce ourselves?
Oh, sure. That'd be great. I saw your names, and that'd be great, just so I can know.
I think it might be, just so you know, the faith communities that we're representing, maybe why don't we
I did
go
look
through
on your
introduce
website.
ourselves?
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is
Okay.
wonderful. I'd love to meet you guys.
Okay.
Okay, so so Cheryl and I have met by Zoom before. I'm Rob or Bob Martinelli, Rob or Bob, either one.
Okay.
And I represent Father Dyer United Methodist Church in Breckenridge.
Wonderful.
And I'm Julie Wright. We met also. I'm with Lord of the Mountains, and I'm the current president of the Interfaith Council here in Summit County. Kathy?
Kathy Godomsky with the Catholic community.
Okay. Don?
I'm Dawn Cook. I'm with Breckenridge Christian Ministries, and I'm the treasurer of the Interfaith Council.
And Kathy's our secretary. Mark?
And I'm Mark Harris with the Synagogue of the Summit, and I'm a brand new vice president.
Annette?
I'm Annette Bolt from Lord of the Mountains Lutheran Church.
And Julie?
Julie Schwartz. I'm also with Synagogue of the Summit.
And Francis? You're muted, Francis.
Muted, Francis.
You're muted, Francis.
Sorry. Francis McWilliams. I'm a retired Presbyterian minister, but I represent St. John the Baptist Episcopal Church.
That's great.
There's no Presbyterian church in our county.
Oh, interesting. Huh. My mother actually is a Presbyterian minister as well, so I'm very connected to that tradition. So while I can see your faces, and I do recognize some of your names, how many of you do receive the monthly CFCU email publication? Any of you? Julie, I thought you might. Your name sounded familiar. Okay. So I was just kind of curious. So let me go ahead, because I'm going to move through this so we can really get to questions and answers. Share my screen. Hold on. Here we go. Okay. Oh, I can see you. Yay, technology.
Okay.
Can you see my slideshow? Okay.
Yes.
Good. So as I mentioned, a little bit about CFCU, just sort of an intro, and then mainly share with you. Wow, didn't know that was going to happen. I'm still learning this technology. Ay. Hold on. Woo! You just got like a flash of everything.
We read it fast.
But in a nutshell, CFCU helps connect faith communities and facilitates their involvement with Guns to Gardens as one example of how we help to engage faith communities in a broad range of gun violence prevention efforts. So in a nutshell, that's it. So briefly, CFCU, I want to emphasize a few things. This is our mission, as you can see. We really focus on the improper use of firearms. So we are not an anti-gun owner organization. We really are focused on public health. We use a public health framework, and we always have, since our founding, a public health framework to address issues of gun violence. And most of you probably are aware that just this past year, the Surgeon General of the US declared gun violence in our country a public health epidemic. And really what the public health framework, what that means is that there's no one solution to address this issue. It's sort of a similar approach to how we, did car safety, with seat belts, with lowered speed limits, with, just a variety of approaches, because it's not a simple, solution. Similarly with tobacco and smoking, again, many ways to address the issue. And so specifically CFCU, within that framework, we work on legislative advocacy. So right now we facilitate weighing in on legislation. So public policy focus, also education. We have a lot of good gun laws in Colorado around safe storage, for instance. So we feel like faith communities are a key institution in our society where people come together and from lots of different backgrounds, and just ideal to sort of educate folks. So education, public health initiatives. The Guns to Gardens that I'm going to talk about is one example of a public health initiative. We've been around for about 10 years. We just, actually, about 10 years, we celebrated our 10th anniversary just last September. We are really evolving from an all-volunteer organization, which I know you all can relate to, right, into more of a traditional professional nonprofit. So we're really in a transition time, using technology, those kinds of things. And we're growing statewide. I would mention that we're really interested, we're very collaborative, very interested in relationship building. There's Interfaith Council up in Fort Collins that's very active, excited to connect with you all. So we're really growing, and we really want to be truly statewide, Colorado faith communities. So there we go. I think what drives most of us, on what we work on is our faith. And we find that, we have many shared values and beliefs, as regardless of which faith tradition we come from. And so we believe that we all have a shared belief in the sacredness of life. And this is what brings us to focus on gun violence prevention. And so I put up this Isaiah passage because, as you probably have surmised, Guns to Gardens is really sort of a modern day version of beating our swords into plowshares. In our current context, we take action, right? I mean, I think prayers and thoughts, of course, have their place. But I think many of us want to make sure we are adding action to that equation. And so Guns to Gardens is one avenue through which faith communities can take action. And so I want to just emphasize before we get into the details that what we focus on in Guns to Gardens is unwanted guns. And when I first started my training, I remember the very first session, I was like, okay, really? Are there that many unwanted guns out there? And I was shocked to realize as, they started telling me about this, people inherit guns that they don't want, and they don't want to sell them and turn them back into put them back in circulation. Another reason it makes sense for faith communities to be involved in Guns to Gardens is because, suicide, as you may know, is the majority of gun deaths across the country, and definitely in Colorado. Suicides are the majority of those gun deaths. And so many times people have a loved one who has died by suicide, and they want to see that gun destroyed. And there's an element of healing if they can be part of that and participate in having it be transformed. So that's another reason people want to get, or maybe they don't hunt anymore, and they just want to get rid of it. And there's not an easy way to do that. So we focus on providing a service to just sort of help people. It's not easy to do. And so a couple of basic things about the Guns to Gardens. I mentioned it's a national movement. So the Presbyterian Peace Fellowship has hosted action circles quarterly for about the last 4 years. And I was a trainer in those for a while. And people from all over the country are doing this. So it's a national movement that we're part of. It was originally founded, the idea of, transforming gun pieces into garden tools, therefore into life-giving pieces of art, maybe garden tools, jewelry, was founded by a Mennonite pastor named Mike Martin in Colorado Springs. He founded an organization called Raw Tools and became a blacksmith in order to sort of follow this call. So he founded it. And then after the King Super shooting in Boulder, Community UCC pulled together, they hosted an event, like they organized it in like 6 weeks, just as a response. They had to do something. And so the event that they hosted, this to, help people get rid of unwanted guns, has become sort of the model, and it has evolved, and we've been learning about best practices as more and more congregations and communities have hosted these events. We now call them safe disposal events. As we learn and grow, the language sometimes changes a little bit, and they're hosted by local congregations. And the vision is that congregations will become places in communities where people know they can go if they have a gun they want to be dismantled. As I mentioned, host churches. And then one of the goals of CFCU is to bring into Colorado this regular training for congregations, these action circles. So that's those are some of the basics. So far in Colorado, just to give you an idea, this is on the right is one of the flyers that this is the flyer for our most recent event, which was down here in North Glen, hosted by Good Shepherd Presbyterian. So you can just sort of see we provide gift cards. And so far in Colorado, 1,000 guns have been destroyed. Actually, that was this is cumulative, actually. That happened in 2022. The Broncos chose Raw Tools as their community impact grant recipient. Who knew the Broncos did that? I didn't. And so they poured money into to Raw Tools to host 8 events, 4 in Denver, 4 in Aurora. They destroyed 1,000 events, got lots of publicity, as you can imagine. Since then, we've destroyed 572. One of, I think, the really cool aspects about Guns to Gardens is how it brings community members together. It's the coolest thing. I don't know, Rob, what your experience was, but I just was exhilarated at my first event, to see it in action. So we've had 62 congregations and different organizations represented in the last few years. how it works, you know, people, you publicize the location, the date, in the community. People just drive in, we make it clear their guns are to be unloaded, and remain in their vehicle. They stay in their car, they just drive through, and I'll show you how that works. And then we have trained personnel, people who are familiar. This is another cool thing. It brings together people with all kinds of different skill sets, you know, people who actually know how to handle a weapon. So I've never volunteered in that capacity, but there are specific skill sets that bring people together to volunteer. So they remove them. There are metal chop saws out, and there are specific ways that the chop saw operators are trained. By the ATF has a specific way, depending on the weapon, how it is to be dismantled. And then those parts then are later, after the event, transformed. We're in the process of trying to get a more local blacksmith network up and running. For now, Mike's Blacksmith Network transforms them. Although the event that you went to, Rob, at Montview Boulevard Presbyterian Church, they are keeping their pieces, and their plan is to transform them into a work of art that will be in their community garden. So,
oh, that's great.
yeah. So there are, like I said, it's evolving and flexible, and just however, the spirit moves us to move forward. The people are anonymous. We don't accept ammunition. No homemade guns. So let me just move on to the next. How am I doing time-wise? I can't see. This just gives you an idea. This was one of our first events down in Littleton. You can see in red the various volunteer roles, and you can move your little screen if your Zoom is in the way, if your pictures are in the way and you can't see them. I don't know, because I know that can obscure, but you can actually move those around to see. So greeters, you can see they come in. We come on in, and then there's what's called a shepherd. So we have shepherds who walk alongside the car, ask them to fill out a survey, an anonymous survey, so that we can gather data about who's choosing this service. They drive on through. The shepherd walks alongside them the whole time. Sometimes people want to talk about, this gun was my husband's and I'm widowed now. And, so we just are there to listen. I actually had just anecdotally, I walked alongside a car with a man and his teenage son, and he said, my brother is in prison, and we found these guns in my mother's house and we want to get rid of them. So, I mean, there's just this whole range. So they move along over here. This is where the safety station, where they're taken out. We have barrels to make sure they're unloaded. And serial numbers. It varies depending on the location, what local law enforcement wants you to, how they want you to handle serial numbers. Here in Denver, we record them, hand them to them, so they can just see, if they have a reported stolen gun, they can say, ooh, check that off the list. That gun is destroyed. It's no longer out there. But that varies by location. These are the metal chop saws here, D. The guns are taken out of the car by the safety volunteer, handed off to the metal chop saw operators, dismantled while the car with the owner inside is sitting there. And this is important because this is how there's no transfer of ownership. The owner is there until the gun is no longer a gun. And then it's no longer a gun. So there's no transfer of ownership of a gun. So then the pieces, and then we hand them there are runners who go into the building, get the gift cards, depending on, you'd be surprised how many people bring in multiple guns. We had one woman at a Lafayette event with 30 guns, and it's just many or multiple. So we get them the gift cards for however many and what type, hand it to them, and then they are on their way. So that's a lot of information. This is just, some specifics. You can host an event, you can volunteer. We never have any shortage of volunteers. In fact, we have started giving priority to the volunteers from the community that's hosting the event, and then we just fill in. We really need funds. Really, the main expense is the gift cards, insurance, few other things. So that's a lot of information I threw at you. And we're almost out of time.
Well, I said the 10 o'clock time. We usually try to be done by 10, but I don't know that we have to be done by 10. I don't know that that's true. I think, anyway, I had a question.
Okay.
Reading about the lobby day that's coming up
Oh, yeah.
on the 6th of February.
Yes.
And you're looking for people to represent areas and to help with lobbying.
Yeah, let me tell you about this. And this is an event that CFCU hosts every year with in previous years it's been in partnership with Colorado Ceasefire. We're a very collaborative organization. Leading up, we have an advocacy team, and leading up to the session, which you probably know convenes every January, we collaborate with other statewide gun violence organizations, the Colorado Coalition Against Gun Violence, which includes gun owners, by the way. There are a number of groups which sort of, assess what bills are going to be introduced. And then we do a lobby day every year, and it's down near the Capitol. It's hosted by Central Presbyterian last year and this year because, sorry, let me decline this call, because we're near the Capitol building. Calvary Baptist has hosted in the past. In a nutshell, it's an opportunity for anyone from, our faith communities to come. The first half is really about education because it can be kind of intimidating to think about advocating for a specific bill, to think about going to your state senator or your state representative. And so we find that it's really helpful to just sort of provide a basic education about how the state legislature works. Not everyone is, as into policy as I am. And so it's really educational in that way. And then when you register ahead of time, and what I can do, Julie, is just make sure I send you. Yeah, no problem, Julie. It was nice to meet you. And hopefully this is just the beginning of some of our conversations and collaborations. But it's an opportunity to meet other people who are passionate about gun violence prevention and engaging from the faith perspective. Yeah, I'm so glad you brought it up. I didn't want to, push involvement, but we would be thrilled if you had a group that wanted to come down on February 6th, Thursday.
What is the annual fee or
to become a member of CFCU? We just increased it. It used to be $100 for like almost 10 years, an annual fee of $100. And now that we're moving in the direction of becoming more professional, we've got a database now, we're hiring. So it's $200 to answer your question. We have just increased that. So for 2025, $200.
If individual churches wanted to belong, it would be $200. What if, as a body, the interfaith wanted to become a member? That would be $200.
Yes, at this point, definitely. That's how we are structured. Rob.
Yeah, I wanted to add a comment and the question. So I did, just so others, I did participate in this Guns to the Garden event in October in Denver, and it was a very moving experience. I was actually a shepherd. I got to walk along with the car, and one of the women was surrendering. I'm going to start tearing up. One of the women was surrendering guns from her brother who committed suicide. And it was very meaningful for her to watch those guns being destroyed. So, as you said, I think I gave her closure, but So that's my comment. My question is, when is the next Guns to Garden event?
Oh, good question. So we're in the process right now. What we're trying to do is actually schedule them. We're going to do 6 in 2025. And so we're attempting to locate, the location so that we can advertise all of them at once. There are a number of congregations like Most Precious Blood who do it repeatedly now. This will be their 3rd year in a row to host an event. It's February, and I will need to look at my list because we have a spreadsheet, and there will be one in February, and I'm trying to remember the location off the top of my head, but I can definitely, once all those are set, I can send that information because there will be a marketing piece that will show you where they all are. Now, that doesn't mean that you guys couldn't decide you want to host one in Summit County, and then we could look at doing that in 2025 or 2026. Maybe you get your training. So this doesn't mean these are the only ones but we want to make sure people know where they are.
Okay.
My
gut feeling is because of the size, number of volunteers required, that maybe we wouldn't be ready to do one in Summit County in 2025, but hopefully we could get more people involved in 2025 and maybe lead up to that. So yeah, when you get that list of events, please email that to me, to Julie, Kathy Godomsky, who's our secretary, and we'll get the word out. Thank you.
I mentioned this at my book club. There were 8 of us there. 2 people said, I have to get rid of guns, and because they inherited them or whatever. So, word of mouth helps. Don, you had something.
Need is out there, Don.
Right. I had a question, Cheryl, because as you move into a bigger organization, probably hire an executive director, that sort of thing, that'll be an expense. But I think that people would be very much interested in donating to your gift card fund. How would people do that?
Yes, in fact, thank you for mentioning that, because I want to put in the chat the website. So you can go to Guns to Gardens. Right now, like I said, it's evolving. Right now, it's gunstogardensdenver.org. And that's the Metro Denver, but we have come under the umbrella of Raw Tools now. So they are sort of the fiscal sponsor. And then let me also put in the email or the website, because this is, as we're growing, our website is improving greatly for CFCU. And so you could donate to, specifically for the gift cards, Guns to Gardens, through that website that hopefully you can access in the chat. And then also to learn more about CFCU, because there's exciting things happening. We would love for your Interfaith Council to become an official member. And I'll tell you, we are hosting, in order to plan and to involve our congregations in the planning, we're hosting quarterly planning meetings and relationship building meetings. So we will have one. You all would be in our West region. We have a number in Arvada and Golden and Lakewood. So that would be an opportunity this year to come and, meet other CFCU members. So we can stay in touch about that as well. I know your name's not Marcia.
Mark. You mentioned in the beginning of your presentation that you are not against gun ownership, but unwanted guns. Do you do anything with gun safety? In other words, can someone who owns guns come in and learn about gun safety?
Well, so that is a great question. So we have, the way CFCU operates, we have what we call action teams. And so we have a public health strategies action team. And we have, a short answer to your question is not gun handling safety, but we're really focusing on safe storage right now.
Yeah.
There are a number of congregations that have been involved with, there's an Episcopal congregation that got a grant from the Office of Gun Violence Prevention here in Colorado to go to events and hand out gun locks. Up in Longmont, every Veterans Day, they give out gun safes, the Longmont United or Community Church. And we're trying to, we do education in congregations about, the safe storage laws that exist here in Colorado. And so we're really trying to get more active in that space, safe storage, suicide prevention. In Denver, we partner with the Denver Juvenile Probation to provide volunteers for what they call a handgun intervention program, where we make up the volunteers of the Community Accountability Board that walks alongside young people who have a recent conviction, offense, gun-related offense. It's their first one. They go through a program. It gets expunged from their record. So really, like I mentioned, that public health approach we are active in. So if you wanted to, get involved and maybe pursue exploring, some kind of a gun safety initiative in churches, it's really, we want to facilitate what works in your community, sort of help empower folks in the local community. But yeah, not against gun ownership by any stretch, just responsible gun ownership, which I think we can all agree on. Did that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Are there other questions? Comments? I'm probably going to sign up for that lobby day. I do enjoy public speaking, so it's one of the things I enjoy doing. So getting involved with that piece of it. I don't know if anyone else would like to ride down with me or join.
I'll send you the flyer and you can put it out, that has the registration link in it.
I've been to the registration link.
Because you receive our digest and we've just started. So if any of you would like to begin receiving, this is a good way to just sort of get more information about what CFCU is and what CFCU does. And I promise we won't inundate you. But I could maybe get emails from Julie, to any of you who might be interested in receiving our monthly communication. But then I also, Julie, will, send you information that you could send out, because that's a really exciting way to engage. I didn't mention the second half after you register. If you are interested in going and visiting, because we're so close to the Capitol building, we kind of empower you and equip you with information to then go and speak, maybe meet with your state rep or your state senator and go in groups,
And I saw the ways to write letters and the form, and you individualize that form. So there are a lot of ways. You don't have to be a.
Exactly. Yeah. We have what we call a rapid response network. So when 4 bills have been introduced so far, and one of them has been scheduled for a hearing. And so then we put out an alert if you're interested, to tell you more about it, first of all, but then also to tell you if you're interested in weighing in and testifying, here's, how you can do it. If you want to just send an email, here's sort of a template for an email that you can customize. Many of us have personal experiences with, guns, relatives or, yeah. And so personal stories are very effective when communicating with legislators. So yeah, we facilitate all of that when you become, when you're connected. That's sort of part of the advantages. We try to make it really easy for you to weigh in.
And in gun laws, in reading about it, Colorado's number 10 in being able to have gun laws that have been put in place, even though we are still one of the top communities for gun deaths in the nation.
Yeah, it's we're one of 14 that actually has, and CFCU was instrumental in getting this bill through the legislature to create the Office of Gun Violence Prevention. So we're one of 14 states now that has an official Office of Gun Violence Prevention, which is located in the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment. And so, for instance, the previous head of that office was our keynote speaker in, I guess it's been a year or so ago, at our general meeting. And Attorney General Phil Weiser came to our 10th anniversary celebration. We have representation on his task force for extreme risk protection order. I don't mean to get into the weeds, but one of the reasons that I just jumped in with both feet to CFCU was because it's very strategic about how we engage. And it just felt like, okay, this is, we collaborate, we're interfaith. So anyway, as you can see,
thank you so much, Cheryl, for joining us today. And this is very informative, and I'm hoping to get more groups involved with this.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
So I will follow up and send Julie. I'll send you and Rob, and I can't remember if I have Kathy's email or not, but I'll depend on you all to sort of just disseminate, and then you let me know.
Please.
Hope to see some of you on February 6th. I'll look forward to just continuing the conversation and the relationship building.
Thank you so much.
Yep.
Appreciate
Thanks
it.
very
And I have your email, Cheryl, so I'll give you an update. I think I'll be talking more within our individual congregation too. Maybe we can get, I'd like to see our congregation join officially, but
Yeah.
I'll keep you in
I think
touch
we've
as far
only
as that goes.
scratched the surface of what people of faith can do in this arena. So I'm
Yeah.
really excited to
Yeah.
work together moving forward. So,
Right.
okay, that's wonderful. All right.
Thank you for all you do.
And I didn't even mention, or did I? I'm the chair of the membership and engagement, the outreach and engagement team. No surprise there. All right. Talk to you later.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Bye-bye.
Mark, I wanted to let you know that Susan and Jonathan Knopf is really into this big time. He's the one, I think, that puts Synagogue of the Summit. I think he pays that, he and Susan. And I did invite them to join us today. They are busy helping move someone. But I don't know, do you know Jonathan?
I know him, yes.
You know him, okay. Yeah, Jonathan is real big on gun safety and but he's also a gun owner, as many of us are.
Yeah, he's a hunter. Yeah.
So,
Well, I was excited by what she presented. I would love to see us work towards getting that kind of event up here.
Yeah, so just so you know, Francis, it took 70 or 80 volunteers to do the one in Denver. And so I'm frankly a little skeptical. It maybe someday, but I think we're talking years, not months, before we could get something like that in Summit County. The one that I went to, I think it's just more practical, at least initially, for us to participate in the events that are happening nearby. The one in Denver, we collected over 70 firearms that day, and they were destroyed right there on site. But it's a big operation. How hard it is to get something going, a new organization going in Summit County. There are certainly a lot of people who are interested in getting involved. And I'm happy to hear the initial feedback. But yeah, I think it would be interesting if you're going to have coffee with the sheriff, ask him how many guns get surrendered in Summit County on a monthly or an annual basis. I bet you it's only 1% of what they do in Denver. So it maybe is more practical. Maybe we can have a more impact by volunteering at an event in Denver or a bigger city or something. But anyway,
but it's possible. Western
I'm
Slope
sorry, go ahead, Julie.
do something or whatever. But I know that our,
Yeah,
our
maybe.
sheriff does have a program for people
Mhm.
to take guns from family members and store them safely here in Summit
Yeah.
County, until
Yeah.
that mental crisis is passed.
Yeah.
But it would definitely take coordination with our police department, but perhaps one of the ski resorts in the summertime would have the space and the area to
Yeah.
facilitate something like that. And possibly
Yeah.
they would be willing to. I mean, if the Broncos
Yeah.
were
I mean,
supporting it.
yeah, that's good to know. I didn't hear that before. I didn't know that before. Anyway, it's something I would definitely like to see us get more involved in as much as we can. I think I think we ought to do it in smaller steps and get more people involved. Julie, and if others, I probably wouldn't be able to, but other people want to get involved in the lobbying, and hopefully more of us can get involved in one of these Guns to Gardens events. I know I would like to do another one sometime this year, and so we need to
Getting
get the
that
word out, I
information
guess.
out. And like I said, I mentioned it to my book club, 8 women,
Uh-huh.
and 2 of those 8 women immediately responded and said, "Oh, I need to know more about this," because
Yeah. Yeah.
they have been put in charge of family guns, and they're
Okay.
now
Okay.
the owners, and
Yeah.
yeah,
It might
they
be.
want to see it not be
So I
used.
might be. I'm sorry, Julie. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay. Okay.
This is the problem with Zoom calls.
I know. And I do my
There
fair
might
share.
be a lot more demand there may be a lot more demand in Summit County than I realize. So, but actually, Francis, if you meet with the sheriff, maybe if you could find out from him how many guns get surrendered on a regular basis, we may rethink whether it makes sense to have an event like this in Summit County. I just think we're some distance away from doing something like that.
Oh, I think so too.
I
But
just don't know.
2026 will
Yeah.
still be around.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Mhm.
Thank you all for being members today, and
Thank you.
hopefully we'll take this forward. And Annette, I have already talked to Doug about possibly putting this in for one of our adult
Tabletop.
education.
Yeah.
So
No, I learned a lot. I definitely learned a lot.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay. Take
Okay.
care.
Good seeing you all.
Okay.
Take
Bye-bye.
care, everyone.
Bye.
Kathy, will you let me know how I put this out for YouTube? Because I'll send something out. I sent something to my school, my church to begin with. And
I don't know. I just have my iPad. I'm here in Florida. I might be when I get home on Wednesday, but I'll try to do it today and then send it to you.
Okay.
I don't know if I can.
Did you send me the thing on the YouTube, on our YouTube channel? Just how to get
No,
into
I'll
it?
get this up there and send it to you when
When
sure.
you're ready, and
Yeah,
don't.
but you could
don't
just go on YouTube and do Summit Colorado Interfaith Council on our YouTube channel come up.
Wonderful. I
may-
did not
yeah.
know that. Okay,
Yeah.
I learned some.
Where are you, Kathy?
I'm in Bonita Springs, Florida. My sister and her husband own this condo, lovely condo. And we drove down from Minnesota. So it's a good 3-day drive. So I helped her out with that.
You gonna
And
play
now you
some
got a
golf?
place to stay.
We'll do a little 9-hole course. They live on a beautiful course. You know what it costs to join the course, Francis? Guess. Yeah. It's like $150,000 initiation fee and then $22,000 a year. There's 5 courses here, but they're like, no way. So I'm sitting on this beautiful course, but no, won't be playing it.
Can't play.
And that's how they're all private down here. The public courses are like, whatever. Yeah, it's weird, but it's fine. We'll go. They're waiting for me to go kayaking, and then we'll go see some manatees, and then tomorrow we'll play some golf, and I'll head home on Wednesday.
Oh, you're coming home from there?
On Wednesday, yeah, I fly home on Wednesday.
Oh, did you get to Tucson? Weren't you going to Tucson?
I do that in February.
Okay. Very good. You deserve it.
people need company.
How's-
One other question for you, Kathy, before you leave. Have you done anything with trying to reserve the CMC, or can I go ahead and do that? I didn't want to
Sure.
double.
Go for it. No, I didn't do a thing.
Okay, I'll
Then look-
contact Heidi. I'll contact Heidi about possibly
Super.
doing that at the Dillon,
Perfect.
probably one first.
Perfect.
Yep, we'll see.
Thanks.
How's
Okay.
Brian?
Thanks for asking, Francis. He's home. I don't know his count. So Julie, our youngest son had the one with the heart work. He had a blood clot in his kidney. So I was in California last week for that. So he's home, bike riding with his kiddo, got a little bit of pain, but not too bad. And his Super Bowl commercial delivers. So
Good.
that's why I'm
Great.
going. So I go to in February, I go to California to play golf with him. He said, Mom, after the Super Bowl, can you come out and play golf with me? I'm like, of course. I'm taking time off. Come play with me. So I said, so that's what I'll do. But thanks for asking.
My daughter's
Well,
still
we-
got that blood clot. They haven't figured out what
Thinking about it.
is causing it,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, a little bit scary.
she plans to come out skiing, and her doctor said no, but she said,
Yeah.
can't take that one from me.
Well, take care. Have fun.
See you soon.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
See ya.
Bye. Thank you so much, you guys.